What's happening? Good evening. How's it going, everybody? Thanks for joining. Awesome. Let's see. Get everything set up. Some music on. We're listening to some Iric Circa. Today we will be playing Super Great Box, which is arguably the game that launched Vlambeer off. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun to play. It's a game that still holds up well, I think. So, you know, I'm kind of curious what my skills are like at this point. And it's gonna be fun to talk about the game design. What's up, Kinetron? Welcome. Alright. So, I actually dug up a few weird old builds of Super Great Box as well. Now I'm wondering if I should... mic volume is loud. Let's get this sorted. Is it? That's not. How about this? Or how about this? How's my volume sounding better now? Let me know. Let me know below in the comments. Alright, cool. Perfect. I have this microphone. It has a weird switch on the back, and I don't know which one's the good switch setting. Alright. Now I need help deciding whether I should start with like the oldest Super Great Box prototype or actually just start with the game and do some weird builds near the end. What's up, Brian? Welcome. Is the audio too loud? Or no? Yeah, we gotta get this right. Mic is dropping. It's what's nice about streams. You can just hang out for a while, trying to get this stuff sorted. Is it better now? Oh no. I didn't even touch anything. Technology is not my friend. Technology is like something around me that breaks. Anyway, welcome everyone. I think we're gonna start just by checking out the very first prototype of Super Great Box. Or not really the very first, but what the game looked like before we started Vlambeer. So let's give this a look. So Super Great Box, it's not working. Alright, cool. Super Great Box was kind of an old prototype. About 11 years ago I was messing around with it, and that was also around the time that Rami and I were getting interested in starting Vlambeer. And I had this game lying around. It was one of the first games that I made that people actually really liked playing. I used to put it on a big projector at school, and my friends and I would just play for an hour. And normally I kind of had to drag them over to play. But for Super Great Box I noticed people would actually want to play and not stop playing.
We just pass the controller and have a blast. And this is kind of what the game looked like at that point before we had a team together. It is the gameplay you all probably know. Oh, there's a weapon that's not in the final game actually. You know, it doesn't really have music yet or look very great. But this is what Super Great Box looked like at first. And it kind of grew from me wanting to make a platform shooter for a long time that was slightly better than the smaller things I'd released before, like 10,800 Zombies from the previous stream. And it never really worked out, so I just started to make things more and more minimal. Oh, the mines were called C4. And this was the result of that, because there were two things I wanted in the game. First of all, the player should always be moving to a new spot. And second of all, they should be using lots of different weapons, you know, to kind of keep it fresh, keep it interesting. And at some point, the crate mechanic kind of became an idea that I wanted to try. Just the fact that every time you pick up a crate, you get a point, and every crate contains a different weapon, which is all that Super Great Box really is about, and it holds the whole game together. Like, once I guess, gave that a shot, it just made sense. And sometimes you have that with game design. There's ideas that just work kind of from the start, and there's sometimes ideas that don't work from the start and you just need to drag them from the ground. But Super Great Box was one of those things where it's like, yeah, this works and it's fun. So what's interesting in this prototype is that there's a lot of strange stuff in here that is not in the full game. So this is the good stuff. First of all, there was a challenge mode, which I think was maybe inspired by Mario Kart on the DS, where you had little missions. You would have the main racing Grand Prix stuff, but also you could do missions, and it was like, you know, slalom in between pylons, or a short race, or drifting challenge, or whatever. And we tried that for Super Great Box. The idea being that if it was a real game, it needed content, and it also, I think, served as kind of a tutorial. So like, the first one is just you have to collect crates. You don't even have to shoot, which is not fun. And then the second one is like the same thing with basic enemies. And then the third one, actually, this is like normal Super Great Box gameplay. It would build up in a way, but there's like a bridge over the fire at the bottom, so it's not as difficult yet. Like, these are not necessarily terrible design ideas to make something like this, but also Super Great Box absolutely didn't need it, right? And I think what's interesting here is kind of seeing that the things you try for a game aren't the things that need to end up in the final thing, and definitely less is more for some projects. Yeah, so in this prototype, the weapon balance was basically the same. Like, the weapons are pretty similar, you know. Once we decided to start Vlambeer and release Super Great Box as our first game, we got together with Vlambeer, Roy de Groot, and Eirik Zurke, and just make nice art and a better menu and stuff like that. You know, and Rami made like a cool crate counter for the website, and we did PR and everything. But the gameplay was there, you know, the weapons and stuff. It's very similar to the final Super Great Box. So this is another challenge. We have like 10 seconds just to get crates, and it's more like a platforming challenge. It's not necessarily fun. Flying enemies only, and we realized like we could totally make 50 kind of puzzles like this, or little missions or challenges, but it definitely doesn't really do much for the game. I'm curious. There was one good challenge in there though, I think. I want to see if we can get there. 10 crates. Alright, we can do this. And Super Great Box doesn't need this stuff at all. So yeah, I did the art for this prototype. I did everything here, I guess. Napalm, yeah, the napalm launcher was a weapon that was basically a combination of the flamethrower and the grenade launcher, and it just wasn't as fun as having those two very distinct weapons. Awesome, Quita, thanks for joining in. It's good that you're here. Oh wait, I can just play the locked weapons, the levels. There was one. So this level I really liked. Basically, it's you only have a revolver, and the walls are explosive. So if you miss a single shot, the whole game crashes. Wow, it just crashed. That's kind of fun. Like that was a cool idea. I think that shows kind of the prototype. There was another thing in there that was kind of interesting. Let me see. Classic modes had a weird unused level that was more like less symmetrical and more like, I guess, snake-like. It wasn't really fun. If you get stuck here, it can be a slog working your way back. And then also it had a local multiplayer mode where like every character has a disc gun and a katana. We tried a lot of stuff, and it was fun, some of it, you know, but it's not like the game needed it, and we needed to ship it. We set a deadline when we started Vlambeer, like we want to submit this game to IGF. It will start off our company. A lot of cool indies might play it when they're judging. Maybe we'll get nominated. We did in the end. We got a IGF nomination for excellence in design, and we lost against Desktop Dungeons, rightfully so. But like all this fluff, we just took it out, and I think that was a good decision. There were a bunch of multiplayer builds of Super Great Box around, like co-op mode on in a versus mode on the Winitron, and I think the Switch build now has local multiplayer after like 10 years. Let's play the real game. Let's start this whole stream. So if you're just tuning in, I'm JW or Jan-Willem Nijman. I'm a game designer. I co-founded and co-ended Vlambeer. I worked on games like Minute and Disc Room. And in this series, I'm just gonna be playing through my old games and talk about their design, talk about game design in general, answer questions, and just have fun, hopefully. So yeah, if anyone has questions or suggestions or thoughts, hit me up. What's up, Tiny Touch Stills? Good to see you here. What is your name? Fancy animation. Alright, this is Super Great Box. Let's see. I'm just gonna play the tutorial, which I think is the worst part of this game. It does have a unique tune and like, see, what do you call this kind of screen? Cool art, I guess. Looks like one of those old games. Game & Watch, that's the thing. So this tutorial is just step by step teaching you the controls and the mechanics. Nowadays, I would absolutely not do it this way and kind of just integrate the explanation into the normal game or make it simpler. But the main problem here is that if you mess up, there's no real checkpoints. You have to do the whole thing again, and it's not fun. There's some waiting involved like this. I just have to stand here and wait, which is never... Like, waiting is one of the worst things you can make your player do in a game, in my opinion. Especially if it's not necessary, right? Or intended. Alright. Fire makes enemies angry. Like, you can totally ignore the text too, right? It doesn't really confirm that you understand it. I didn't even read that. get 10 credits, creates our score. I think there's a checkpoint at this point, so if I die now... Yeah, okay. But other than that, this tutorial is too hard. One of the people who worked at the Dutch Game Garden, which was our office at the time, when we just started out, couldn't beat the tutorial, and he told us to make it easier for before IGF, and I'm glad we didn't, but the tutorial is terrible. I think that was the kind of lesson to get from that. Anyway, we're gonna make this. And now you have to get to the door also, like, and enemies keep spawning above the door. Like, who designed this? This is terrible. Alright, tutorial complete. Congratulations. You are now ready for the game. Thank you, creator, for being so judgmental. Was the level design inspired by the Super Mario Bros. Multiplayer level where the green shell guys became red and angry once they re-entered the level? No, I've never actually played that game. I watched videos of it after Super Great Bucks came out, but I grew up playing PC games, so I didn't know. But in a way, the level design might be just something that makes sense for this type of enemies. Just walk like that shape. So we ended up with it through that. Alright, and then you're back in the menu. Stats. So this is nice though, right? Like, even for back then in our game, we put like a stat screen and you can see your scores and how many enemies you've killed and which ones have killed you and your unlocks. Like, I think this is pretty detailed and nice game design. Like, I would still do similar stuff for games now. Might add a button to the bottom that says like, oh, you need to press a button to go back. Settings, there's no rebindable controls. Gamepad's not working for some reason. That's fine. Credits. That's me and Rami. Music by Arik Circa. Absolute bangers. Graphics by Roy and animation by Paul, two good friends of mine who were also, you know, really good pixel artists, or still, obviously. And it was just really lovely to work with them. Special thanks, Dutch Game Garden, the podcast, Super Secret for Gamer. Dr. Petter made SFXR for the sound effects. Enigma and Coco Fabien did Florence Francis Coulomb. He did the really awesome cover art for the soundtrack. Alright, everything's locked. We don't have any modes. Let's just start playing. And it just throws you straight into the game, and this is kind of Super Great Bucks' strength. It's just simple arcade stuff. Where every time you collect a crate, you get a point and a new weapon, and the enemies spawn at the top and they move to the bottom, and if they enter the fire they become angry and move faster, and that's it. There's three types of enemies. You have those small guys, flying skulls with the really simple AI that makes them look super intelligent somehow, and then there's big enemies as well with way more health, and sometimes they spawn in lines, those small ones. There's like three in a row, and that's it. You unlock more weapons as you play more, and like new characters, and more levels, and there's a few modes. It's just a really simple game. It's on Steam right now. You can get it on Switch, I think. Might be on other platforms, I don't know, honestly. But I think it's still fun, and you can get it for free as well as a download on supergreatbox.com. The Steam version is also free. It's also on mobile. I don't know if that still works. But yeah, we made this game with Vlambeer. It was our debut title back in 2010. So that's 11 years ago. Alright, I'm doing quite alright. The game also doesn't increase in difficulty, it's just kind of fixed all about, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's not on iPhone anymore. Yeah, it's really hard to keep apps working for more than a few years because Apple just keeps updating their stuff. Yeah, the score gets an exclamation point when it's a new high score. It's nice, that little bit of information that you kind of want to have, that it's there. I think we have to get 40 points to unlock Sfmt mode, which is way harder, and then 10 points maybe to get the next level, and then also your total score, your total crate amounts is how you get more unlocks. That was the kind of layer that we added to the game from that prototype. Instead of having missions and challenges or whatever, just decided to have a nice kind of steady drip of unlocks. It's not a lot, it's not gonna keep you engaged, you know, the game is there to do it. We don't want to be one of those casino things, but it's nice to kind of introduce you and give you more variation as you play more. Alright, 45 creds, you have acquired 5 new unlocks. Score 100 to unlock a new character. Ooh, there's like difficult stuff like that too. For the Switch release, I'm pretty sure we had to just make it work in a more modern version of Game Maker that exports to Switch, and then also we decided to add the local multiplayer mode for that. Yeah, it doesn't get harder as time goes by, but it sure feels that way, just probably because you get more tired, and you know, more time is a bigger chance for slip-ups. New weapon, revolver. It's like the pistol, but not useless. New weapon, flamethrower. Burns enemies and your feet. Yeah, so the flamethrower, when you're standing on it, you can't really jump, you just keep bouncing. New character, crocodile. Nice, that's for a high score. New mode, Sfmt. Play this when the kids are in bed. Well, it's past 7. Should be okay. New area, rocket silo. Give it a try. I like the writing. It's like not very confident. It's just attempts at jokes or something, but we're not trying to cram maximum jokes out of every word. I wouldn't write it like this now, but it's kind of funny seeing your past self. Alright, so we unlocked a new level, we unlocked a new mode here. I'm gonna unlock all the levels first. This one also 10. Crocodile. Oh yeah, what I also like about this game is that if you unlock something new, it's kind of automatically equipped. Like I picked up the second crate really quickly, but the first one had the revolver, which I just unlocked. That's that kind of, wow, that kind of flow. This is the hardest level, by the way. So in the background you have these screens that show your character. We were always doing like little silly details that we just thought were cool. I still think it's cool, but it's nice to see that level of detail in a way. The art in general, like I still love the tile sets. Everything is, all the sprites are 10 by 10, which is a ridiculous format for sprites. But I'd always loved working really low res, and I just felt like 8 by 8 was not enough. That those few extra pixels make a huge difference, and then Paul and Roy just had to deal with that. I do think it gives the art in Super Gradebooks kind of a unique feel, because not many other games use this tile size. The game runs at 50 FPS for no logical reason. Maybe that's the secret to what made this kind of a successful game. I wonder if you released Super Gradebooks today though as a freeware game, if it would get anywhere near the amount of attention that we did, and I'm kind of worried it probably won't, which is a shame, because there's a lot of people out there now making really cool freeware games who, you know, are just having more trouble because there's so many more games coming out. Oh no, don't go in there. So what's nice about the random weapons in Super Crate Box is that it makes the game super unpredictable, and you kind of have to learn each weapon's unique advantages and disadvantages, but also you have to play well, you have to keep the worst situation in mind in a way. You have to think like, what if the next weapon is gonna be dual pistols, which is absolute crap. You never want those. Or, you know, you can go hoping for, oh, maybe the next one is this, I can use it to clean up the level a bit. And it just keeps your mind occupied in a way that just straightforward shooting might not. You're not thinking only about how do I take out these enemies, it's like, how do I get to the crate? And what's it gonna give me, and how will that affect how I deal with what's on the screen right now? So it kind of keeps your brain a bit more engaged than it would otherwise. We actually made an April Fool's version after the release that gave you score for killing enemies instead of the crates. We pretended it was a bug and released that. I'll play it later actually. It's absolutely terrible, and it just shows how much this one mechanic holds the whole game together. Wasn't this game on Ouya as well? I don't know. Honestly, do not speak that word on this stream. That's gonna be in the terms of service next time. 50 FPS, very European of you. Yeah, that's the metric system for you. All right, 5 new unlocks. Nice. That was a good run. Welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in. It's really lovely having you all here while I get to play games and just chat. New weapon, disc gun. We hereby sincerely apologize. This is where it all began. This is when we started being mean. Mines. These seem tricky to use, but yeah, that's good. That's a good joke, you know? Like, there's no but. Actually, they're tricky to use. New character, robot. So that's actually the robot from Nuclear Throne. That's where robot originated. Alright, Sfmt unlocked on this level, and then the next level. So this is the Moon Temple. There was a narrative involved here. So you start at the construction site and you realize, oh no, these monsters are appearing from, I don't know where they're from, but they're very dangerous. And then the next level, let's see, is the rocket silo, and we wanted to do this thing where if you collect enough crates, the rocket takes off and bloody blood opens up or whatever. Then the next level, the final level, there are 3, is the Moon Temple. So the monsters came from the moon, you went there with the rocket, and then you raised this statue in the background of Plaklupu, the moon god, who was kind of the cause of this all. And that's the story. The monsters came from the moon. Mines. So mines are actually unlimited, and the really good players, what they do is they take like an hour to just put mines everywhere, which is not, you know, like, it's not super great game design. It's not fun to do. Maybe it's fun to them, I don't know, but you know, a redesign of this game, there should be like a small limit on the amount of mines that can be on screen or something, because it just becomes worky. So the disc gun kills you, and our main idea with all the weapons was to make them kind of give them a downside. Like this shotgun moves you a little bit and you can fall off the level, you need to take that into account. This gun can kill you, the whatever, you know, everything that is, especially the powerful weapons, needed something more dangerous. Is Super Crate Box set in the Nuclear Throne universe? Vlambeer once wrote a post about that. I'm pretty sure it might be. It might be. Every Vlambeer game might be in the same universe. You have acquired 1 new unlock. The Astronaut. Unlocked for scoring 10 on this level. Which is where you would otherwise get a new level. But there's only 3 levels. I need to unlock Sfmt here though. Score 40, I think. Ah, the robot. I like the characters a lot. I think that also a lot of that comes from the low resolution. It just makes them kind of cute. They can't have many details, so the things that they do have are kind of enlarged. You know, if you're 10 by 10 pixels, you gotta have big eyes because 1 pixel is already pretty big. Let's see if we can get out of here somehow. Out of this conundrum. And the game actually gets trickier once you have all the weapons unlocked. Right at the start you don't have the mines, you don't have the disc gun. The disc gun mostly makes it difficult. But we dealt with that by having, once you unlock all the levels, your high score becomes official and you have a different leaderboard. So in the end you want to play on the official leaderboard, right? Not the beginner's leaderboard without all the weapons, because then players, like, for optimal score you would like uninstall the game every time you unlock the disc gun or something. But I don't know, since the difficulty doesn't increase either, people can play this game for hundreds of hours and not die. I think this is maybe one of the weirdest levels. It's not that fun. That jump at the bottom, this one, is kind of hard to do. But it was hard making levels for this because the first one is just the most fun. Why? Why me? No, that was from the beginning, the official leaderboards. It was something we kind of thought would happen. I don't know. I think Super Cratebox did well on iOS. I don't really remember, but at this time, like, iOS was still relatively new. And, you know, people liked it. It had the best touch controls we have ever seen, or something according to some people, but still touch controls. Yeah. But we hired a studio called Halfbot for that because they made a game called The Bloxcom. I need to get this correct. The Bloxcometh. Yeah, The Bloxcometh. I don't know how to pronounce Shakespeare in English, I'm sorry. And it had really good touch controls, and they did the port, so that was smart, I think. 1 crate to the next weapon. Well, I don't want a crate. I want to play Sfmt. So Sfmt is the same thing as normal, but way harder, and the rows of enemies, they spawn in like groups of 4 instead of 3, and you just need to get way better at weapon management in this mode because there are so many enemies. You need to get nice kills like that. When you unlock the minigun, this one has a tiny bit of recoil, and I die. I saw someone ask if the weapon spawns are random. I think they are, but you cannot get the last 2 weapons you picked up. It's something like that. What happens if that stairway thing in the background keeps going up? Does it stop? It stops at a certain point, and I think then you unlock a character. So the minigun has intense recoil and screen shake, which kind of became a thing we were known for. Rightfully so. And you can use the recoil to stick to the wall, which is like, it has something that's never explained, but it's like one of those little fun pro strategies. And even though this game is very simple, you can move like back and forth and shoot and not much else. All the weapons are in their own way very different and kind of interesting to use. Like, this is similar to the minigun, sure, but it's doesn't do halfway as much damage, and also that was dumb. Also, you can't stick to the walls, right? And you don't have to deal with the recoil. I want to unlock ambush mode, which is the final difficulty mode, and it's absolutely ridiculous. We're gonna unlock everything, no worries. Got plenty of time for that. So yeah, in this series, next episode will probably just be the next Vlambeer game that we release. So it might be like Serious Sam, the Random Encounter, and after that, like Gun Gods and Luftrausers and whatever games I've worked on that are kind of relevant to those titles. So with a good weapon you can kind of clean up if you mess up, which is nice. Lots of flying fellas. So yeah, their AI, the flying skulls, they bounce off walls, but then they slightly angle towards you, and that's all they ever do. And they have a little bit of gravity. And that's it. And it just feels like they're... I don't know, it just feels like more than that, right? Like if you look at the code now, maybe they rewritten it themselves and do some smart stuff. But it's great. They kind of fill the spaces where the other enemies don't go, which is exactly what they're needed for. Yeah, I'll upload this to YouTube for sure. Hey brother Android, welcome. It wasn't designed inspired by the Super Mario Bros. Arcade game. I had never played that. I think we came to some similar conclusions in like level design and stuff for single screen platformers. Obviously, like there's a bunch of good single player or single screen platformers out there. But yeah, that wasn't one that I had played personally. Yeah, so I think this is where the gameplay of Super Crate Box also starts to shine. It's just kind of the intensity and weaving your way out, platforming your way out of these really tight kind of situations, while your weapon is the way you interact with it. The game is really difficult. Like obviously my skill hasn't really faded, luckily. But it's not easy. It takes a while to get good at, get a hang of it. And sometimes you just have to do a whole bunch of work to get to like a single crate. I'm gonna wait for that one to come around and kill it. Ah, dang it. And then you mess up and you almost die. No. I think that's the good stuff. Almost 20. And then you get the dual pistols just at a time when you don't need it. Ah. Alright, one new unlock. You're just finding out so many games of your childhood were made by me. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so the crates spawn randomly, but far enough from the player and from the last one that spawned, and then also there's a few spots where they cannot spawn, like above the fire and at the top level close to the entrance, kind of where the enemies spawn. When you unlock ambush. Ambush, game over, 0 crates. Alright, let's play some ambush. Yeah, so ambush mode. The world record of crates collected, I would know, it would be in the thousands. You should check out YouTube videos or something. But for normal mode, definitely, and Sfmt in the hundreds. I also love the revolver shoot left and right in a jump, or the laser build up killing one way, then turning and jumping to unleash it. Yeah, that's, I agree. It feels really good that you can do like that quick revolver shot. What other games or developers would you recommend checking out for devs who really like your designs? I would absolutely like start checking out the people I've collaborated with and the stuff they worked on. Like a lot of it is super good. If you go to my website, I will link it. You can actually click on everybody's names and just check out their stuff. And then also, I'm a fan of like Bo Blith's game, like Samurai Gun, has this like perfect type of pixel platformer with really good game feel. Old games by Cactus and Hotline Miami, obviously, and games by Messhoff. But there's so much good stuff out there that does this way better than what we did back in the day. I would just get started somewhere and just dig in, you know, and look into the people behind each game and what other stuff they've worked on. So ambush mode, this is really difficult. We figured, what if the enemies spawn like the crates do? And you can get stuff like enemies spawning close to the entrance, and so they're instantly turning angry, and also, you know, just moving too fast without checking what is happening around you becomes almost impossible. But it's really satisfying that you can still get like a measure of control and learn how to deal with this very, very difficult, basically ridiculous mode. It's not as fun as the other modes, but I think it's good to have something ultra punishing out there for the players who need more challenge, because obviously, like normal mode and Sfmt, the difficulty is fixed. It doesn't get harder. Some people might need this, or you know, you can obviously stop playing, but maybe they don't want to. The trick with the minigun is that you can keep walking against the recoil and it just stops you. You're just walking in your place. Still kind of hard to do when you need to turn around. When you unlock the katana, useful for cutting bamboo and pandas. What does that even mean? The katana grew out of a chainsaw that we tried. There was a chainsaw in the prototype at some point, and you would just run through everything, which wasn't as interesting as having to time your hits. I'm gonna play a different level. And the katana takes 2 hits to kill the big enemies, and it turns them around, so it's kind of useful, you know, to defend yourself with like that. I messed up. So like a lot of that is also strategy. I should have jumped over the gap. Yeah, laser gun is chainsaw cutting. We'll get that. I think that's the final unlock. Did you crunch while making this game? How many hours a day did you spend developing it normally? The normal prototype I just made on the side. At the time I was like 19 years old. I had lots of energy and I didn't need to sleep. So when we were wrapping up Super Great Bucks, we made a big 1 month schedule on the. I made one on my living room wall, and every day I just worked most of the day. It absolutely didn't feel like crunch though, and it wasn't like in a studio culture, and I was doing that by myself, and I felt super fine. Later we definitely worked too hard for some Vlambeer games, but then all my later games like Discrim and Minute have been made completely crunch free, which is, you know, if you want this to be a career and something that you do for more than 2 years before burning out, is how all games should be made. Absolutely, like crunch is something no one should be doing, and if you cannot make games without crunch, then you shouldn't make games. Unless you're 19 and you don't care. But anyone else listening to this, please don't crunch. And if you make other people crunch, you should be in jail. A true Vlambeer classic is Luftrausers. It is. All our games are pretty classy. 46 crates to the next one. 20 to unlock ambush. We can do ambush, right? What was your first game that you finished that you thought was a good game? How long did it take you to get to the point that you liked what you made? I think that's a difficult question because I liked everything I made. I didn't necessarily think it was good. Well, I didn't like everything, but still, I was happy that I was making stuff. That was the whole point. And then you don't really judge your own games. It's more like how do other people react to it, right? In the end, you're not the audience. It's gonna be other people who are playing your games that are your audience. So it's more important to basically playtest and see what other people think than what I feel about my work. That said, like I had a point when in my game making where I kind of started getting more confident in what I was making, and I knew that some people might enjoy it. And then some of my kind of pre-Super Great Box games, like Atomic Super Boss, and still kind of holds up. I feel like it's a good game design. And then Super Great Box as well. I'm still very proud of this game. It's not top 3 best games I've worked on, but still, like, I enjoy playing this right now, and I think that's all you can ask for, really. And I'm sure there's people around the world who are still playing it every now and then. Did y'all purposely aim for a sort of Vlambeer house style, lots of guns, screen shakes, strong but simple core loops, or was it just a natural result of your tastes? I think it's both. Like, in a way, Vlambeer is me and Rami and the teams put in a blender, right? I think in the end, what your games become depends very much on kind of the individuality of the team members. There's a bunch of stuff that we obviously felt like, hey, this is very Vlambeer, let's exaggerate it a bit or something. Playtesting during pandemic times is, yeah, Zoom calls, people writing their thoughts, stuff like that. I kinda miss it. We want shorter games made by people who are paid more to work less. Absolutely, and that goes for everything in the world, not just games. Like, let people chill and give them money. Alright, 40 grades. So for this streaming series, I'm calling it Designer's Commentary. I'll be playing all my games. If there's anything you would like to see, or if you have any thoughts or things, let me know. This is new to me as well, and any feedback is super welcome. Also, if you like it, subscribe, hit that like button, all that good Twitch and YouTube stuff. But I think it's kind of interesting to be doing this. There's not many games where there are commentaries in a way. And I get to play video games. Are you really sorry about the discount? No, absolutely not. But it's polite to say sorry. Sometimes you have to say sorry and thank you. I love discs. They're like one of the core elements that video games are made out of. Discs, keys, skulls. I usually don't do keys though. Keys are not my my style. Alright, 40 crates. We can do this. That was lag. That was lag. I didn't do that. Do you have some favorite cool features that you've added into your games? I don't know. I love little details. I love tiny secrets. I think for Super Great Box, one of my favorite things is firing the shotgun. There's this little pushback on the gun and the shell pops out when it reloads. It's like tiny things. I love that. So many cool questions. Thank you. Why do you make your hitboxes so big? Like the katana is way beyond the sprite. It's important for the player to feel like their intention is recognized, right? Like if you hit something with the katana and it's not really spot on, it still feels like, you know, I was gonna hit that enemy, it should be dying. So having big or hitboxes or small ones for the player kind of just helps read the player's mind, and the game responds to their intention. And often if you have like completely pixel perfect hitboxes, it feels very unfair and it feels not generous enough in a way. So I just unlocked a grenade launcher and the text says like 10% faster than the rocket launcher. That was because there was one playtester who was complaining about the grenade launcher all the time, that it's just a useless rocket launcher. And it is like trickier to aim, and it has this thing where if you're really close to an enemy, it shoots over them, so it kills you basically. But you can shoot them in the fire, that's kind of cool. And it shoots 10% faster than the rocket launcher, so like mathematically, this gun is completely certified. I need to learn how to like read chat and play at the same time. Always avoid the disc weapons in your games. Yeah, so the disc gun in Nuclear Throne is totally a reference to Super Great Box, and it's useless. While in Super Great Box it's actually a really good weapon, but it's difficult. Yeah, so like you said, a game can be generous and still be really hard. I think after a few years of Vlambeer, I started to realize, like just thinking about game design in general, that I really love designing games that are like, that make it really easy to get your ass kicked. So it's like really comfortable. It's almost like comfort food, you know, like it's not hard to start playing. You jump right in and then you get completely destroyed by the game, right? Like it's not difficult to get your ass kicked, and in a way it's really friendly as well, right? Like we don't have long intros or menus. There's not a lot of, you know, story wasting your time in Vlambeer games. It's just you get kind of punishment right away. We try not to waste your time, and then later games like Minute and Disc Room also have those philosophies, right? But like Minute is all about not wasting your time. I think it's a really interesting way to make games. It's not the only way, but it has worked very well for me, and also for our players in a way. Are there many clones of this game out there? Yeah, I'm sure. It's been 10 years now. People can take stuff, I think. Anyone who did it before this, though, who Alright, 40 crates. And you know what's nice about Super Crate Box? If you know that you can get 20, you know that you can get 40, right? I have used all the weapons already. I made it this far. It doesn't get harder. I just need to perform consistently in a way. Oh, and then I get dual pistols. Never mind, it's the dual pistols. New high score? No, not yet. That was terrible. I should have killed that enemy first. So much about this game is about like hopping and shooting, which is not the most fun thing to build a game around, but it worked. Spelunky is a lot like that too, actually. It's like jumping and timing your whip just right. Alright, 36. We gotta focus. Whoa. Perfect time to get the disc gun. Perfect time for dual. Alright, we did it. Perfect. So like, the little mechanic with the crates and the score just creates these tiny narratives, right? Like that was tense. and now it feels completely different, timing's different, and I discount myself to the face. There's some 3D clone where the crates transform you into different animals, but the animals' attacks are like identical to the webs you have in. Yeah, that's Muffin Night. It launched on iOS quite quickly after our game. It has this thing where you grind to upgrade your level, your weapons, and it makes it a lot less fun. What genres of games do you like that are the most different from your games? I think most games I like are actually not very difficult. I love, you know, cool artsy indie games that tell interesting stories or have great art styles or that are just more about atmosphere. And like my guilty pleasure is just big AAA open world games. Like I love any Far Cry. I'll eat it up. I have like this, it's like fast food, you know, I have this love-hate relationship with it. New character Plaklupu. I've unlocked the Moon God. And I've unlocked Sfmt in this level. See, that's me. That's me in the background. This one has an idle animation with evil laughter. Like, Paul really outdid himself. I forgot about that. Also, I said this on last stream, but those little 90-degree angle jumps, I forced our animator to keep that in because I love them so much. Oh, I'm playing Sfmt. I gotta focus. No, 3 grades to the next weapon. I think that's gonna be the laser rifle, and that's the final weapon in the game. See, like, this is really short loop to just unlock everything, but it just feels slightly nicer than just throwing you straight into the game and having everything, but it's not quite a grind fest at all. It's more like an introduction, and in a way in game design you are always balancing what there is to do for the player and how good they are and at what point and what timings you should give that stuff. And I'm always about giving people stuff when they can handle it, and then making sure it's not all at the same time. And I think Super Great Box does pretty okay at that actually. Sfmt is now official, so we have unlocked all the weapons, and we got the laser rifle. To get good at game design, it's best to make a lot of small games. I agree. Well, it works for me. I don't think it's the only way, but some of the hardest things in making games is you need to get experience having worked on them and having finished them, because finishing is the hardest part of development. So making smaller games, you get a lot more experience finishing projects. So for me, that's kind of key, but there are other ways to learn game design. You could, you know, study it in a more kind of classical sense by just reading up on it, or you could, you know, join experienced teams that can teach you. But, you know, in the end, you're gonna need to get that experience and actually work on games. Did you ever get companies trying to headhunt you to design games for them? Rarely, and it never... I haven't really done any like game design consultancy gigs or anything. I'd be open to it if people want to pay me, but usually making your own stuff is more fun, right? So that's what I've been privileged enough to be able to do for these last 11 years, is just work on my own projects and pay rent. And if I can keep doing that, that is kind of awesome. Oh, official. So fancy. Unlock ambush. Score 20. Let's try. So the laser rifle has this charge and then it fires, and it's all about the timing. It's kind of hard to get right, and you can also use it as kind of a melee thing while it's charging, which is like the chainsaw I talked about earlier. Totally. It's a fun weapon, it's powerful, but also it's one of the hardest ones to use. Sometimes I think about like what other weapons would I design for Super Crate Box that I didn't at the time, and it's really hard to think of stuff because it's so much of it is about what the enemy design is like as well, and I mean there's a few different patterns you can try, like more vertical weapons or something, but I don't know, that's still something I like to think about every now and then and don't really have a good answer to. Alright, fry everything. And you get out of here. Terrible. Homing missile, yeah, that could work, totally. Like something that, so you kind of have to make sure there's no wall in between you and whatever you're trying to hit, or whatever's closest to you could work. Yeah, or like something that bounces vertically or like diagonally could be cool. Let's see if we can get ambush unlocked here. I was really proud of that like slicing effect on the katana and the disc gun. I had learned that in a previous prototype and decided to put it in Super Crate Box. But that's like fancy tech for me. Yeah, the weapons do not need to be balanced at all. There's no incentive to keep using one, totally. Which is kind of the fun of having this. So it was more about they have to be different enough from each other to be worth their addition. I need to get some crates. Like you can keep killing stuff, but if you're not getting crates, you're not getting scored. Also, like that's a nice thing about Super Crate Box is there's this thing where some weapons have long reloads, so you know, like before I get this crate, I'm gonna fire one more rocket, you know, or I'm gonna drop one more mine or one more grenade. I'm so bad at this. Yeah, the laser rifle is like a bayonet, totally. The different weapons almost become like obstacles. Yeah, I think that's something fun you could actually do with the weapons is make them change your movement in a way that's more interesting. Like there could be a weapon that fires down and you can use it to double jump or fly even. You could make weapons that make you move faster. But all of those require almost more advanced player knowledge and skill. Well, I think the way Super Crate Box is now, it's a nice level for the players. So it's like you can always do more, right? But we didn't, and I think that was really lucky and well balanced. Like the amount of work we put into this game, it's just the amount it needs in a way. I can't do this. Like this is a game, you know, it could be remastered or anything, but it doesn't need it. I mean, some people don't like pixel art as much, but that's their problem. 3 crates to your high score. Alright, let's see if we can... What do we have left to unlock? So we don't have ambush on those last 2 levels. And there's 3 characters left to get. I think they're all for really high scores on every difficulty. Do you think designing a lot of your games at 30 FPS was a mistake, or do you like it? So at the time, it was kind of the default for Game Maker, which is why I did it. I didn't think about it. I think also 60 FPS gaming was not a thing back then. For Nuclear Throne, it was a mistake. we should have maybe switched over at some point, but that is such an involving process. And I remember feeling at the time that we were working on that it was very much like, all right, we gotta continue and get this game done. And there was never really a nice pause or like, hey, you know, let's take a break. We did weekly updates, right? So you're in the middle of it, and I think, you know, there's mods that have 60 FPS for New Cruise Run, and also every game I'll make from now on will be 60 FPS, but also I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's just a frame rate. The game's fun, right? Like at 30 FPS or 60. You just need to take some time to get used to. Which game jams do you like participating in? I haven't really joined game jams in a while that I can remember. Like, I always liked the idea, but I feel I've done my fair share of jamming. And now, right, if I feel inspired to make something, I just make it. I don't really need a specific context or something to do it. I like checking out stuff people have made for jams. Alright, we gotta get 20 crates. This feels like normal mode actually. No, it's not. Oh, that was dumb. Still learning, you know, every mistake is a learning moment. That's a cool detail I'm proud of. I'm actually gonna show that if I get a laser rifle next time. So what's also fun about this level is that this little platform is completely safe from every enemy except for the floating ones, and they have a hard time getting there. So you can kind of work yourself into trouble. Sometimes you have to allow players to get into some trouble because it will make their experience more fun in a way. And they can keep that into account next time. Alright, give me a laser rifle. I want to show the thing. Alright, so if I die with the laser rifle firing, it like falls away from you but still fires. I was always very proud of that. What retro console do you ever want to release a game for? I don't know, maybe Xbox 360? No, I don't care about platforms. I just want people to be able to play the stuff we make. I want to show y'all some weird Super Crate Box builds and some dev stuff. Let's see. Music. We are listening to music by Eric Circa, who did the music for Super Crate Box and Spelunky and Downwell and lots of great stuff. So first of all, I have this folder called Special Delivery. Let me just open up some stuff. And it's like all the art for Super Crate Box. Or at least a lot of it that was done by Roy before it got animated. Can I zoom on this stuff? Yeah. So this is the tile set for the first level, and I love how small it is. Wait. And then like the lab. Wow, this one opens in paint. Sure, why not? Lab stuff. It's super minimal, cute tile set, but I still think this game looks fantastic, and the 10x10 art is really good. Moon Temple stuff. Then we had like big background assets like this. Like the rocket. It's really good art. All the weapons. and just like different versions. I think simpler machine gun. This was a chainsaw that got cancelled. Then this was a first drive, the laser rifle, and then we gave it a more distinct color and made it more unique. How do you feel about the general tuning rule of doubling and halving values? I think it works, but I think it's more important to tune a lot of stuff continuously. Like whenever I'm playing my games, I write down little notes, thinking, hey, this should be slightly larger, and I just change it. And then whenever I'm playing again, I'll keep an eye on those things and try to notice them, like how movement feels, or how firing a weapon feels, or like little level design things. And that's, for me, not something that's a test that I'll sit down to do, but it's more like an ongoing thing while working on other larger things that are more about progressing towards finishing your game, but still little game feel things. And tuning is something that happens right from the start until the end of the project, which is also why you should make sure that the most important things that you're doing in a game, like the start and the ending, are in quite early in a way, because they'll be tuned the most. At least that has worked for me. I know there's also the advice to make your first level last, which is true if it's just about straightforward level design. But in a way, I think Kitty always said this when we were working on Minute, and also this game. It's like people are gonna, remember the start and the ending, and that's where you need to put a lot of thought into. I'm gonna run a Christmas version for Super Great Box. We made this for a Trek mode who were giving a party in LA, and this was like their cool game they had. And it's just Christmas Super Great Box. All the characters have hats, the crates are presents, there's trees in the background, and then also the snow, I think you can like destroy it with explosives and fire. It's quite fancy. We must have put like 2 hours into that. What's up? Totally not a spam bot. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining. Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. It's really nice to have you here. Thank you. I love Irik's music. It's so catchy always, and it's smart in a way. It's never obvious or like boring. It's like smart music. 69 people. Perfect. That's the sex number. Let me know when we have 420 viewers. New high score, Merry Christmas. Oh yeah, and then also because it was at an event, it had this thing. What's a good name? Anyway, that's a weird Christmas build. I'm gonna see if I can unlock everything in Super Great Box though. Right. Wish me luck. Actually, maybe I can try a different. I'm thinking if we've made any other platformers after this, but nothing major. There was Infinite SWAT, I guess. Is your goal with making games to push the state of the art forward for people to just have fun or something else? I want to push my own skills forward, whatever projects I know I'm on as a individual and as a team member, right? I want to get better at making games. I think every project we've set a small goal of like, we want to get better at doing this or that. You know, like for Nuclear Throne, we wanted to see if we could make like a big game with lots of content. And for me personally, that's very important, right? Like once I stop learning, what's the whole point? Then I'd rather just not work. But as far as games just being about fun, no, they're more than that, right? I always look at games as more of a whole. They're like a combination of all these little things that come from like the individual creators, like the art and the game design and the audio. They're not things that stand on their own. They're part of a whole, which is a game. So also really stopped looking at game design as just making up rules and mechanics, but more as a thing like, alright, you have this whole thing that people will experience as a game. What can you do with that? How do you deal with that? What are, you know, good shortcuts you can take as a creator? What are interesting ways to mess with that? And for me, that I just really enjoy the process of making them. I don't know, I always have, especially like now that I've stopped, you know, unhealthy working habits, I'm just having a lot of fun a lot of the time, just finding out what we can all come up with and how people respond to that. How would you approach teaching devs about game feel? Make them make stuff or give them stuff to edit and mess around with. The talk I gave about game feel, the art of screen shake, it's very much tailored towards like devs who are just making games on their own, who are just starting out, and just giving them some small tips and tricks on how to do little things that make their game feel slightly better. You know, it's not necessarily this is what game feel's all about, or this is you know the way or whatever, but it was more like, hey, here's some stuff that you can do if you haven't thought about it yet, and it's not hard, and it will probably make your game slightly cooler, right? Which is a very starting point for game feel, or a good starting point. That said, not everything needs gratuitous screen shake. It's like salt, right? It's kind of bad for you, but it will make some food taste better. Also, some people like it too much, like me. Other people hate it. Some people get nauseous from screen shake. You always need an option to switch it off. The screen shake video was on the syllabus in my prototyping class. That's awesome, yeah, because it is small stuff to make your prototype feel slightly better, right? Like, I always think little things like making sure there's something on your screen that's always moving, and making sure that, you know, the players' actions are acknowledged by the game as well as possible, or as good as it can be. Is very important, right? Like, I think one of the things that I would do in an updated Super Great Box, like theoretically, is just like make the camera kind of move around a bit when you move, so that the screen would be wider than what we're seeing now. Little things like that are cool to just kind of show where you are at a glance. Even if you're not looking, you see how the screen is kind of dragged toward this direction. It's gonna be fun when we're playing Luftrausers, actually. There's a lot of weird camera stuff in that game that I think works really well. You have 500 hours on this game. That's a lot. I hope you had fun. When I first played this game, the screen shake on the minigun made me nauseous. Yeah, I think this game actually doesn't have a setting to turn off the screen, which is terrible. We were like cocky kids who were like, oh no, it's mandatory. You don't like my food, get out of my restaurant type vibe. I would absolutely not do that anymore. I'm sorry. All the games we make now, like Minimalism have like super elaborate accessibility settings and stuff and difficulty settings. But back then I was like, no, taste my design, deal with it. Which is, I don't know. Those were the times. That's what it was like. So sorry that you cannot turn off the screen shake in Super Great Box. I hereby sincerely apologize. The get good mentality, yeah, in a way. I never really liked that. Like, I don't like getting good at games myself. I like games that are kind of easy. I'm a quitter. I'll give up if something is frustrating. But it's fun to make, and it's fun to kind of see players struggle with these things and then overcome it or not, you know. Like, always been a little bit mean in my design, which was fun. What has been your favorite and least favorite games to make? I have good memories making Super Great Box. That was really nice. I really loved making Minute. That game is full of so many tiny little details. It's really personal to all of us in a way. I've had a good time making most of the games I've worked on, actually, though. Like this room as well was just a really smooth process. It went really well once we knew exactly what the game was gonna be, and got the team together at PAX early next year, which was like the last games event in history. It's the only time we got the whole team in the same place. We went out for dinner every night and talked about the game, and after that we came home. COVID hit, but it was also like, hey, we know what we need to make, and we just knocked that whole game out in a pretty short time. It took like a year and a half to make this game, which I think is really fast for the skill and kind of scope of that game. Worst games to have made, I don't know, like some games I burned out badly, like Nuclear Throne. In the end I had an absolute, I'm very proud of that game, and I have really great memories of working on it and the streams, but also it really was not good for me in the end, doing weekly updates and just putting it out like that. At the end I was kind of done. And Ridiculous Fishing for me personally, and for the whole team probably, like the whole cloning thing was really painful and terrible. Like, in hindsight, now that we've had success with Ridiculous Fishing, it's like, oh well, at least we had success. But when it was happening, we didn't have that yet, right? We were just nobodies, and someone had just straight up stolen our game and beat us to market, and they were selling millions, and everybody was like, oh, this game is great. Well, it also sucked, which is even worse, right? As a creator, you're like, well, they copied your thing badly and people still think it's good, you know? Like, can you imagine? And then like the fear of like, what if people don't like ours? What if it doesn't? What if they think we cloned Ninja Fishing? That sucked a lot. Whew. Sorry for ranting a bit there, but that's what you get when you ask me questions sometimes. I still have like mixed feelings about like cloners, like especially if you're just taking like some little teams, great idea, and you're a big company or you have money to hire whatever bullshit outsourcing company to make it for you. Like, I just think that's vile, and it's kind of not what creativity should be about. But also, you know, sometimes people take ideas and they go somewhere great with it. Ninja Fishing knew about it from like the Flash game Radical Fishing, which is like the game that we made with Vlambeer to get some money together to start the whole thing. Ooh, this feels really good, that machine gun. It's nice sound. you're in this tight space, just nothing can come through. But meanwhile, the rest of the level is filling up. Hottest game dev is Vlambeer. Yeah, definitely top 10 material. Do you think you'll ever form another game company or just stick to collabs? I don't know, like the reason that we are crediting the whole teams always on like Minute and Discroom is that so often in games credit just goes to either this anonymous company and like the employees who aren't doing all the PR and who aren't the public visible part of it are not getting as much credit, even though they're an essential part to the whole game. And also it just allows us to work with, you know, whoever I feel like working with for the project in a way, and then everybody just getting their part of the spotlight. It feels like a very nice way to work. Obviously, I'm sure it also has downsides, right? People might get... I've very often had to correct people on Twitter or press, you know, like, hey, I'm not the only person who made this game. It's made by Kitty and Dom and Yuki, or it's made by me and Kitty and Terry and Duz, whatever, you know, but that's work that I'd happily put in, and it would be weirder if you did that with a company name, right? Like, hey, Super Great Box is, you know, made by these 5 people or something. And I think it's something we actually did not do super nicely at first with Vlambeer, right? Like some of the people who did huge amounts of work for our games will never get as much spotlight as Vlambeer has, because there's this company name up front. And then likewise, you know, the person who's doing the PR for Vlambeer is the one who's gonna be known for it. And you see that with all game companies, right? Like especially with larger ones, it's just the figureheads that people know about. And I think it's cool if people can know about who did the audio or who did design or who did programming or whatever, and look up their other work and be like, whoa, I really like this room, I'm gonna check out what else Kitty has worked on, you know? Or maybe check out Terry's work, which are different games as well, right? And but they're all connected in a way. These people think about similar things, they work on similar projects. So like if you like this room, you'll probably like all the other stuff we've done, and it's kind of this dream end game of just people enjoying their games like that, and not necessarily being like, oh, I like this company, but being more like, oh, I like these individuals, I'm gonna, you know, learn and see what else there's out there by them. Because it's not like a new construction to just work with different teams on every game. Like lots of games are like that, but usually you don't know because of the company game. The game industry has terrible crediting practices in general, right? Yeah, absolutely. The 50% of Vlambeer didn't help with that. And like in some ways, sometimes that's okay when it's like smaller games, and you know the hours that people put into stuff are kind of not proportionate to whatever stuff other people have done, but still, you know, like Paul and Roy and Eirik and everyone, they made this game, and they should be able to be known for that too. But we were young at the time as well, and it took us a long time to get better at being a company. Like, as far as me specifically making it also my goal to just get better at communicating with the team and stuff on Nuclear Throne. Like, I don't know, I don't think we've been always been great to work for. And we've always paid people fairly and stuff, and we're friends with everybody we've worked with, but I think there has been a lot of room for improvement, and I've also, you know, worked on that a lot with later stuff. Yeah, it's not necessarily normal to just be a boss and have to, you know, there's a lot of stuff that you don't think about at first, especially when you're 19. 20 crates, we can do this. I actually just want to play the first level on normal and unlock like 100 crates. Oh, I said I was going to show that shotgun firing animation that I was so proud of. Alright, there you go. That little shell popping out and the 1 frame of kickback. I think it's perfect. Like, it doesn't need more. It doesn't need less either. It's just like, it's just nice. I think that's like the kind of things in my projects that make me happy. Does anyone have any other questions about like Super Crate Box at this point? Because I'm gonna get 100 crates. But that's this game. Like, you should play it. supercratebox.com. Get it on Switch or Steam or wherever you find it. Let me know what you think. But I think this was a really good debut. As Vlambeer, I'm very proud of it still. It's fun. I'm having a good time playing. Did you ever experiment with different enemy types during development? We've tried some stuff. There were enemies that like crawled the walls, but we also realized that the variation in this game should come from the different weapons, so that is kind of the main focus. But there were ideas of doing like, okay, different weapons have different enemies and stuff. That would have been hard to design though, and I think it was good that we didn't spend time on that. You know, this way we could ship the game. Dang it. How are you a minimalist and not at all a minimalist at the same time? I think that's a really good observation. I always like, or I don't know, this wasn't deliberate at the time, but it's something I've thought about later, and I thought Super Crate Box was minimalist. You know, it has this really tight core mechanics with the crates being score and swapping your weapons and walking around. So like everything's tied to the crates, but at the same time there's a ton of different weapons, right? That is not minimalist at all. So I kind of like having these really constrained sets and then being, I guess, a maximalist in something else to keep it fresh, keep it interesting for the player. Because once a game becomes stale for the player, once they know what's going on, it often stops being interesting to play. So this way you're kind of spreading out the workload and keeping it interesting over a much longer time, and also it just makes the game much better than if it just had one weapon and was about collecting crates, I think. If you look at something like Disc Room, which has quite a similar core setup, like it has very simple controls, very basic input, but there we mess around with the levels and the discs and the variations a lot more, and that becomes kind of the maximalist thing there. I said levels, I should have said rooms. Wow, terrible. And then Nuclear Throne as well, like that game is not minimalist at all, but you know, every character is like, they have an active and a passive, and that's it. That's their difference, but it makes a huge difference, right? So like, I think it's important that if you make things with content, that the differences between the content are major and they're not small increments or like slight variations, and that's something that we've kept in all our stuff. Can you pause this game? Yes, you can. Awesome. Super Crate Box 2 is not happening. At what point did the idea of having points based on crate pickups come in, or was it there from the get-go? I just wanted to make a platform shooter really badly, and it kept, you know, being too big and complicated, and at some point I realized, well, if I do it single screen, that might be easier, and from that came the thought of, hey, players should be moving towards something, maybe pickups, and then thinking, hey, what if the pickups are different weapons, and then if you are forced to pick them up, there doesn't need to be ammo for the weapons, so we can have people play with all these different weapons, right? Because if you have content that is not used, then it might as well not be in the game. So that it kind of, from that came the conclusion, what if you just get score only for picking up the crates? And that really tied everything together. And then there's the little thing like enemies falling into the bottom become angry just to put some pressure on the player, but that's not as important. It's just the whole crates thing carries this game, and you know, I haven't made a game since that has such a super tiny core. So that's some good stuff, right? Like you don't come up with stuff like that every day. What's the jankiest bit of code in Super Crate Box? Everything. This game has absolutely horrendous code. Like, I think the unlock screen maybe is just this giant list of if statements, but I don't know. Super Crate Box code is terrible. Recommendation tips for game marketing. I like making and not so much the selling, pitching. I don't have good recommendations or tips. I am not someone who specializes in marketing. That said, it is super important because if people don't know your game exists, they won't play it. There are so many resources and talks on that. The only thing to keep in mind is that all of them are outdated and not how you should do marketing nowadays. But I don't know. I won't be able to tell you like, hey, this is how you do marketing, or this is the best practices nowadays. I'm sorry. Do you see yourself ever working on a primarily narrative-driven game? Not necessarily. I like it maybe if people I work with are really into that, but I think Discroom has quite a bit of story compared to earlier things, even though it's not really in your face. Dang it. And then Minute as well is quite a, you know, it's not necessarily story in the traditional sense, but it has a lot of writing and world. It is a cool thing, right? Like giving people emotions and stuff. Story is great for that, other than like string orchestras. Did you toy with the idea of having some crates move around? No, but that is super funny. That would be cool. I think there was a co-op mode for this where you basically had to play together. 2 crates spawned and you only picked them up when both players were on the crate. On different crates, right? So like there might be one up the top and someone had to make their way while the other player is waiting at the other crate. That was fun, but I could totally see like a local multiplayer mode where the crate is like moving around and you have to get it. And it could use the same logic as the enemies. The thing is though, if you just had boring moving crates, you can just stand here and wait for it. But I'm sure like flying crates or something, it's a cool idea. It's a good idea. You want to play Gun Gods so badly? I think it's on Steam, right? Are you against designing around weapon reload delays? Yeah, mostly. I think waiting is bad, and if you can design around waiting, that's super fun. I think for Nuclear Throne specifically, we set no cooldowns for abilities. I know a lot of roguelikes roguelites or whatever work like that. But it just makes you wait, right? If the optimal strategy is just to stand behind a corner to wait for your grenade to recharge or something, that's not fun. But then you can add like a timer on top of that to add pressure, so you have to, you know, and it just becomes stressful just from inherently existing in the game. And it very much forces the player to optimize their play. And I think there should be some room for messing up and some room for cleaning up, right? It creates a nicer balance. I don't know. I think cooldowns, if you can not have them in your design, that's fun. Like if you look at the different character abilities in the Cooldowns, we'll get to that stream eventually. You can see that like robot eats guns. That's a resource that we wouldn't have used for that if we didn't say to ourselves no cooldowns, or like horror using radiation or something, or just being able to use the shield whenever, and then designing a shield around still being weak to certain things, you know, or like not moving. I don't know. I think that's a interesting way to work. Yeah, we can't play Glitch Hiker. The game died. I'm sorry. All right, 100 crates. I'm gonna need some support, but we can do it. This is the run. This is it. I like that you can like fire the laser gun and then pick up a different weapon, and it still waits until it fires. It feels really good. So I think the next episode should be Serious Sam the Random Encounter. I'll drop a date on my Twitter super soon, and then come up with a more regular day for streaming every week. But it's been interesting revisiting stuff and just thinking about it with my brain from now instead of back then. Like a lot of decisions were intuitive, and I still think that's a great way to work, and in hindsight you get kind of a different look at it, and I've had 10 years to think about things. Dang it. Otterbugs has not been cancelled, it's still coming out, but right now we are waiting for a few Switch certification things, and it's not easy. Hey, no worries, totally not a spam bot. I'm glad it was useful for you. All right. Mines. I love the disc gun though. Like, it is so dangerous to use when you first get it, and it's really powerful. It just cleans the whole line. It has that thing that you can kill a big enemy if you time it so that like it should get outside of them and then back in. So if they're too close to the wall, it doesn't count as a double hit. But if they're far enough away from the wall, you can kill them with one disc and things like that. It's a very fun weapon to use. I still think it's more games like Spelunky could use a disc gun, right? It would be a good addition. More games should have it, and it works better in a platforming, like where you're mostly fighting horizontally than in Nuclear Throne, where it's just more unpredictable and random. And it also works better because it's insta kill here. It becomes really scary to use. Also, like with the shotgun, you can time it so that you kill a group of enemies in like one shot if they're close enough. Minigun's just silly there. You never got to play the Serious Sam game. Yeah, it's not very good. So you didn't really miss out too much. No more disc guns. What are you talking about? So the Serious Sam game really, I think it's a. If you like Serious Sam, it's a really good joke. But other than that, or it's a mediocre joke maybe. But I don't know. Serious Sam levels of humor, it's probably a really good joke. But the gameplay itself, like it's more of a fun idea. But back in the day, I feel like every other game we made wasn't as good as like whatever we made next. So like for the first few episodes, now like the next episode, the game's not gonna be as good. And then after that, it's gonna be good, and after that, it's not as good. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But it not being as good doesn't mean it's not interesting to talk about the game design. In fact, actually might be more interesting than Super Great Bucks, which was a bit of a freak accident at the time, like accidentally making something that still holds up. Alright, 100 crates. We're like almost at a quarter. That's a quarter. I don't know if I can do this. See, that's like dual pistols could have saved me there. That's like one of the only things in life where dual pistols might be good. I should just have mashed twice, because in Super Great Books you don't know what you're gonna get. It might be a disc gun. You cannot do that. I think that's good. That's like a really powerful moment. Also, they're never good, right? Those damn dual pistols, except in that very moment. Alright, 20 points to get ambush. Let's try. It's kind of fun how these more difficult modes kind of train you to be better at normal mode as well. Like, what's that thing in Dragon Ball Z? The hyperbolic time chamber. That's what it is. That's what Sfmt stands for. Should have been more decisive. Would have made it. Alright, mines. I can work my way out of this with mines. I just need some patience. Terrible. Like, you can see where I messed up in a way, right? Like, I should have gone in a different direction, or I should have gotten the crate. There's always like these what if and like, oh, this is where I messed up moments. I think that's a great thing to have in a game. It's like these really clear learning moments when you die, and Super Great Bucks does that quite well. You know, when you die, it's usually very clear what happened. And you can learn from that, and you can start right again. I think that was kind of innovative at the time. Like, indie games started doing that with like Super Meat Boy, which came out like 2 days before Super Great Books or something. But like the thing where like if you die, there's no loading screens, there's no animations. It just press a button and you're right back in the gameplay. And that's like, that became like a staple of more modern indie game design, and rightfully so. But before that, games had like long loading times, and they didn't really do such nice restarting at all. I guess also from back in the arcade days when people were like are you sure you want to continue 9, 10, and trying to get money out of you, and having these long intros. And it took a long time to shed that kind of type of difficulty design and just make games that were like hard but also not there to suck coins out of you. 10. Oh, that was a bossy move. Do you have any favorite arcade games? Honestly, I've not played too many arcade games. I always loved shoot 'em ups, so like 1940X and stuff. I think that's some of the most fun you can have in an arcade. Metal Slug's good. I like kind of light gun type games like House of the Dead and stuff. They actually have like really awesome arcade games in Malaysia in malls where you have like a water gun and you shoot actual water at a screen to hit the enemies. And it just has this nice game feel, like if you hit something, a bit of the water sprays back. It's kind of amazing. I don't know, I've never seen that before. Do y'all have any favorite arcade games though? That's what I want to know. Bazooka. It's kind of Metal Sluggy in a way, like getting these weapons and then a pop-up. Machine gun. Another fun fact, this boss music that Eirik made is in so many Vlambeer games. Puzzle Bubble, yeah, Puzzle Bubble is good. Episode 1 Racer, I haven't played that, but it sounds amazing. That's like, that movie is criminally disrespected, but we are not talking about Star Wars here, please. I messed up. Hey, thanks for joining, Brookwayne. Hope to see you again whenever the next one is. I need to get 20 here, but I think most Super Great Box related things we've been able to discuss. So we'll do like one more game and call it a stream. One more game, like I said. Yeah, no billionaires allowed here. Absolutely not. Welcome, Andy. Good to have you right at the very end of the stream. We're doing one more game for a while and then I'm wrapping up. But I'll upload this stuff to YouTube as well. And the VOD will be... Do you say VOD or VOD? I don't know. It will be on Twitch. I'll try and make it like a highlight or something. I'm learning all these things. Learning, people. This game's too hard. I said it. I think it was kind of essential as well here to just tune the hit points for this game so that like the big enemies feel tanky but also really easy to take out. Can't believe I died even though it still fired. I guess the laser rifle doesn't kill them in one frame. So there, I could have shot the wall with the shotgun, it might have bounced. I don't know, might have. I can't wait to get to like the larger games on this stream, like play through Nuclear Throne again, unlock all the characters. Play Minute and Disc Room, I'm excited for that as well. I think they're both still maybe on sale for like 1 more hour. People want to play them, but otherwise we get more money, so that's even better. Whoa. Could you jump? This level is tricky. I said one more game, right? So much, like a lot of the games I've worked on, they really hide like health numbers. One of the reasons for that is that I really don't like tiny health bars. I think they're one of the ugliest things you can put in a game, unless it's like an RTS, and even then. The other reason is that it's really fun to learn timings, like how long does it take to kill something, how many shots, or like how, you know, it gives the player kind of more interesting work and things to remember and getting used to. I don't know, I really dig that. Regarding ninja chickens, there's a chicken in this game, right? I haven't unlocked the chicken, but it's like right there before the end. And there's a screenshot for this game called Katana Chicken or something that was on the website. I think that's where the cute round chicken was born. Either way, thank you all so much for joining, for listening, and for asking great questions and all this awesome stuff. I'll be doing this again very soon. Keep an eye on my Twitter. I hope to see you again. Click follow, click like, click subscribe, and talk to y'all soon on the internet. Goodbye. This was Super Great Bugs.